Hello, I'm Mike, this is Will, we are the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And I bring you issue 2 of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Mortal Realms today. And in this issue we got 4 easy to build Myrmourn Banshees for the Nighthaunt, as well as a pot of Corax white paint. And before we head into the issue, if you want to skip straight to the battle at the end, there'll be a time code in the description. But heading into the issue now, first up we have some background on the Myrmourn Banshees. They used to be women who dabbled in the arcane arts, but while doing so, failed to pay proper respect to Nagash, and he cursed them to forever seek out and devour the magic they craved in life. Abilities, their daggers, their ability eat spells, or the spell eaters as they're called. I also hear a little bit of background about the equipment, the Stormcast Eternals that you use to fight the undead. And I've got some background here on Nagash and why he hates Sigmar so much. Essentially it's because Sigmar took some souls of the dead to create the Stormcast Eternals, and obviously Nagash as Lord of the Dead feels he is entitled to them instead. And now we have some background on the Soul Wars, which is sort of what's going on at the moment. Nagash was trying to siphon energy from the realm of Shyish to power up his death magic, but in doing so caused an event called the Necroquake, sort of big magic disaster, which sort of ruptured the land in Shyish and across the mortal realms. But in doing so, unleashed the Nighthaunt. So sort of convenient for Nagash. He had a new army to play with, and he organised them to start assaulting the mortal realms, and the Stormcast Eternals have had to respond by sending the Sacrosanct Chamber. And now we have the build guide for our Myrmourn Banshees. They are pushed together and easy to build, but I would say some of these parts are very fragile and quite thin, so you need to be very careful actually getting them off the sprue. It would be quite easy to actually bend some of these parts, although sometimes you can get quite big gaps. Getting them into the base, again, you need to be careful not to bend them too much. And here's the actual guide of how the parts fit together. And we have our first painting tutorial. As it says here, you should set out a hobby area with all your equipment. Really should put some newspaper down, something to protect the surface you're painting on. As it says, painting your models brings them to life, and is a big part of the hobby. And it goes over some of the equipment you have. So you've got the paintbrush and the paints, some kind of water pot. The jug is fine, we could buy the Citadel one. Some kind of palette and some paper towels to dry your brushes. You just hear about loading the brush. Just don't overload the brush when you put paint on it. Try to avoid getting paint into the ferrule, as it's called, the bit where the bristles join to the actual brush, because that can make the bristles splay apart. And really, at this point, you're just all you're really doing is painting all your Nighthaunt models white. And it says to do multiple thin coats, so you can build up a nice solid colour without blocking any of the detail. If you do one thick coat, it can obscure the details. And it's a lot easier to add more paint than it is to take paint away. And really, that's all you have to do is undercoat them white. But that'll be it for our issue overview. We'll head into the battle for this issue now.
So here we are onto our second playthrough of Mortal Realms magazine, Terror Amidst the Tombs. So Anastasia Starstrike and her Sequitors have survived the attack of the Chainrasps, and now they're confronted by 4 Myrmourn Banshees, which have risen up to oppose them. So we have another game as we did in the previous issue, with only a couple of slight differences. And we've got, as you can see, the 3 Sequitors fighting against the 4 Banshees that we got with this issue. And this follows the same rule set as we had in the previous issue, which, just to be clear, we only know how to do 2 things so far, which is piling in models in melee and then rolling to hit. And then hits essentially cause casualties, or cause injuries at least. But the difference from the previous issue is that the Banshees only have 1 attack each rather than 2 that the Chainrasps had. But they get to go first, and they cause D3 damage per hit. So just explaining how to hit here, and then the damage. So for each hit you roll a d3, and that's the number of hits it inflicts, I suppose. So although they have fewer attacks, they can potentially take out the Sequitors by doing more damage. And then you just move on to fighting with the Sequitors, and continuing until nobody has any models left. So again, we'll see all that in the playthrough. But just a final thing here, they've given us a summary of the available weapons for different models that we've had so far, just to put all that information in one place, I suppose, for ease of reference. So onto the game. This won't take very long individually, so we'll probably play it through a few times, maybe try a couple of variations and see how we do. So here we are back in the tomb. We've got our 3 Sequitors set up on their starting positions as before, and the 4 Banshees opposing them in spaces dictated by the magazine. But the Banshees get to go first, so the Nighthaunt get to go first in this iteration, so they can pile in up to 3 inches.
Yep, so as you can see, all the Banshees in the front row are all within 3 inches of a Sequitor, so we'll just pile in directly ahead.
And once again, we don't know about weapon range yet, so at the moment only people who are touching in base contact can fight.
We're going to follow the rules as they're laid out by the magazine, so you can see as they introduce new mechanics, we'll adopt them as well. This last Banshee can only get to about there. And then I have 3 attacks, because the Banshees have 1 attack each. And I've got 3 in base contact, hitting on 4s. So that's 2 hits, and they do a d3 damage each, so just roll these and then halve the result, we'll see. So that's... So 5 and a 6 is a d3 is a 3, so that's 6 damage in total, which is actually enough to kill all the Sequitors.
Yeah. So they're all killed.
Yeah. So the Banshees win.
So anyway, well, let's set that up again and see if the Sequitors can actually get to do something this time.
Let's see if they can get a turn.
Right. So we set up again. Let's go again. So they can all pile in 3 inches once again.
So once again, 3 attacks hitting on 4s. That's 2 hits again. 2d3 damage. Oh, so that's 4 this time, so 2 Sequitors will be killed.
Right, yeah, so they take 2 hits each again. So these 2 go down, leaving Anastasia Starstrike to fight back. She has 2 dice, and these hit on 3s, and the Banshees only take 1 hit to kill. So that's only a 1 and a 6 though, so 1 Banshee goes down.
So I'll take away the 1 at the back.
Now the Banshees get to go again.
Yep, so we can pile in. And we've got 3 attacks hitting on 4s. That's 3 hits, so...
Yeah, she takes 3d3 damage.
3d3 damage. I mean, the minimum's enough, but that's 7 damage.
Right.
And another victory for the Banshees. At least the Sequitor's got to have a go this time.
So, attempt number 3.
Round 3. We already know that we can pile in 3 attacks hitting on 4s. That's 3 hits. 3d3 damage. That's 6.
6. They're all dead again.
So I think at this point I rolled pretty well. I mean, on average I shouldn't do this well. I think we'll do another game and we'll let the Sequitors go first.
Yeah, see if they can do a bit better. Right, so round 4, and we're going to let the Sequitors go first this time. So they're going to pile in 3 inches. Obviously they are within range because the Banshees were, so they'll pile in. And they get 2 attacks each, hitting on 3s.
So on average they should wipe out the Banshees.
Yes. See? Well, none of our roll 4 1s they won't, so that's 2 dead Banshees.
So, yeah, take the 1 off the back, 1 off the side.
And the Banshees get to strike back.
Yep, so we can't pile in because we're in base contact. And we've got 2 attacks hitting on 4s. And that's only 1 hit, d3 damage, 1. So a Sequitor takes a wound.
Yeah, so not quite enough to kill one, so it
takes 2 hits to kill a Sequitor.
Then there's their turn again, so he'll pile in. And we've got 6 dice again, so we just need to roll 2 or more 3 pluses. Yeah, there we go.
There we go, 5 hits. That's enough to kill the remaining Banshees.
Anyway, I think that'll do for now, so we're going to give you our thoughts now and recap what we've just seen. So that was the playthrough for issue 2 of Mortal Realms. What did you think of that?
Well, I mean, it's a bit like the first one. It's a bit too basic to really talk about tactics and things, since we really are just learning the rules. And as we mentioned, we are going to be playing the rules as they're set out in the magazine. I'm sure eventually in the full rules, well, the Sequitors might be a bit more durable than they seem to be now. Although I think on average I didn't expect to do it. It was lucky that I managed to kill you in 1 turn in the first game by just rolling well. And then the Sequitors with their 4 attacks back should kill 3 of the Banshees, 2 or 3 of them, at which point you'll probably win out in the end. Yeah. It's probably a much closer game than the previous one at least.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll do the old statistical analysis again to see what it looks like for this game, but it's not as... the Sequitors have a reasonable chance of winning. Well, the only new thing that we learnt was how to do multiple damage, which, of course, I mean, in Age of Sigmar, damage does spill over between models as well.
Yes, that's one difference between Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40,000 is that extra damage spills over in this system, whereas in 40k it doesn't. You don't really overkill models with really powerful weapons. As you do here, you roll damage before you apply hits rather than the other way around. It's going to be similar to the other magazine where they'll introduce a new concept in every scenario, and eventually we'll build up our way to the full rules. And it will usually coincide with what model you get that week.
But, I mean, yeah, there's probably not really much more to talk about with the rules, to be honest, because it's quite basic, and, as you said, there's not really any tactics involved. It's just who rolls better.
When I'm talking about the Banshee models, I think I did mention earlier that be careful getting them off the sprue because they're very thin parts that would be very easy to bend. And actually, once you put them on, if you put them on the bases and trying to paint them, there's actually some parts that are quite hard to reach as well, particularly the one that's closest to the camera. Trying to get in between the gravestone and the fence is quite annoying to actually paint there, so it probably is easy, as they suggest, to paint them separately before we put them on the base. They have the nice scenic bases, which is good or bad. If you don't like the graveyard aesthetic they've got going, it'd be quite a lot of work to actually chop them off and then put them on a different base. But the ones that are actually phasing into the terrain itself, it'd be a lot of work to chop them off and resculpting work to make them fit, unfortunately.
And it also means that the bases are an extra step to paint, so if you're...
Yeah, they probably took longer to paint the bases than the actual Banshees themselves. Because there's so many tiny details like flowers and leaves and bones and that sort of thing, and various different colours you want to do, and metal fencing and stone and wood.
Yeah, I suppose we could talk about painting in general of them.
Like what they're doing with the rules, with the painting tutorials, it seems like they're introducing that at a slower rate than they did with Conquest, because they're doing it sort of one paint at a time.
This issue we learned how to paint at all.
Literally how to put paint on a brush and apply it, and again, you should just be aiming to be able to getting into doing multiple thin layers rather than a thick one. It's tempting to do a thick one, but that can obscure the details, so you do multiple thin ones and to build up a strong colour.
Although they tell you to do that for the base coat for these models and say you should put 3 coats of white on these models, it is actually much easier if you can get hold of one to use a spray can primer.
Yeah.
And undercoat. You can get, at least Games Workshop sell Corax White as a spray. There are also other brands available. Spraying these is a lot quicker than putting 3 coats of white paint on them. So if you want to speed the process up, then that's a good way to do it. Might also be worth mentioning, of course, that we have painted up models completely and not...
Yeah, that's just so they look nice for the camera. It just looks nicer to have fully painted models.
And this is probably broadly what they're going to look like once the magazine finishes with them, but that might take many issues.
Yeah.
In fact, it will take many issues to get to this sort of level.
And I suppose just a sort of an admin notice is that we are subscribed through a newsagent, so hopefully that means we can bring you these videos weekly, because I get the issues weekly. But it doesn't mean we're not getting any of the subscriber gifts or any of the stuff on the premium subscription either, so none of the other models that come with that. We're not going to cover that, really.
Yeah, that's a good point, because at least with Conquest, the premium subscription mainly just gave you some extra tools and new battle mat and things, whereas with Mortal Realms you actually get the start of 4 separate armies with the Blaze of Khorne, Sylvaneth,
Flesh Eater Courts and Iron Jaws.
But just in case you were wondering, that we won't be having those in these series because we won't receive them. Anyway, I think that's probably all there is to say for this issue of Mortal Realms. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like and subscribe for more. Leave any comments you might have about the battle or the miniatures or painting. Again, if you're an experienced Age of Sigmar player and you have tactics that fit these miniatures, at least once we get to the point where tactics become relevant, then do let us know, because we are newcomers to this game as well. We'd like to learn how to play it. For now, we've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, bye for now.